The fog crept in silently, weaving through the twisted, leafless branches like ghosts embracing the night. A chill danced on the autumn air, carrying with it a hint of something ancient and unseen. Hanna shivered against the brisk wind as she stepped off the bus, her suitcase in one hand and a flashlight in the other. The vehicle rattled away, leaving her in near silence, surrounded by the untamed wilderness of Blackwood Pines. The cabin, her late uncle's last refuge, was a half-mile trek into the thick of the woods. Her family insisted she visit, wanting to settle the estate and rid themselves of its whispering echoes. The town's name, Hollow End, already hinted at tales better left untouched. She took a breath, steeling herself, and clicked on the flashlight. A small cone of light pierced the dark. A solitary path lay ahead, winding and narrowing as the trees seemed to lean in, conspiring with shadows. Whispers of leaves underfoot were the only sound, punctuated occasionally by the distant call of a night bird, a mournful cry that seemed both part of nature and beyond it. Around her, the forest shifted almost imperceptibly, a living thing breathing in sync with the world's forgotten rhythms. As she moved deeper, the trees changed, becoming thicker, their trunks gnarled and roots twisting like ancient serpents across the damp earth. The cabin appeared without warning, its silhouette against the fog, a jagged wound in the seamless quilt of midnight. Moonlight shone down intermittently through the cloud cover, just enough to unveil its outline. The structure was older than she remembered, the wood discolored and warped by years of brutal winters and lost summers, perched on the brink of some unseen decision, to stand firm or crumble into history. Crossing the threshold, Hanna felt the immediate change in air pressure, a shiver-inducing whisper that wrapped around her like a second skin. An unseen tension floated in the corners, pooling in the darkened nooks of the room. Dust motes danced uneasily in the beam of her flashlight, shimmering like whispered secrets between people who once lived a heartbeat ago. She set the suitcase down, exhaling slowly, and glanced around. Time seemed suspended in this neglected space, with personal items frozen in the moments they were last touched. A ghostly quotidian moment, captured while life carried on elsewhere. An old leather armchair, her uncle's refuge in his declining years, stood sentinel near the fireplace. Nearby, a stack of yellowing newspapers whispered of past stories and forgotten daily routines. Hanna picked up one, noting the date, June 10th, 1967. Much older than she expected, they were local papers filled with obscure columns about farming yields and peculiar weather patterns. And something else. Something about disappearances. A sound, the unmistakable creak of a floorboard. Hanna's heart skipped, her breath catching as she swung the beam of light toward the sound. Only dust danced before her eyes, particles suspended in their lazy ballet. She waited, motionless. She blamed the wind, settling wood, the natural chorus of an old structure. But instinct whispered otherwise, kindling a small ember of fear. The sound had felt intentional, as though it wished to disrupt the burden of timelessness in this hollow place. Determined not to let imagination triumph, she moved toward the kitchen, where a small stack of mail awaited her presence. Letters from family, some opened, others untouched since they arrived. Bills that would ail no more. But one stood out, its paper unlike any she'd ever seen, a texture that smoothed beneath her fingers chillingly. There was no address, only a seal bearing an unfamiliar crest. She broke it, unfolding the letter. In neat, spiky script, it held a message. To the keeper of the lost, beware the eyes that see beyond the veil. It resides where the heart does not beat. Do not seek, for it has already found you. The paper fell from numb fingers, fluttering to the floor in a manner altogether too calm for the storm churning beneath her ribs. Hanna's gaze rose, tracing the edges of the dim kitchen, imagining, no, feeling, the weight of unseen eyes. There on the periphery, she sensed something almost tangible, tracing her movements as though it were aware. Suddenly, the air grew thick, oppressive. Hanna found herself moving back to the door instinctually, each step paralleled by the rapid tempo of her pulse hammering in her throat. Every room held its breath as she crossed each threshold, silent watchers in their makeshift prisms of memory. But with each backward glance, she perceived a subtle shift. The photographs lining the hall, their presence unfelt until now, seemed to take on life, the eyes following, judging. In every frame, her uncle's smile was frozen, Yet there was a quality to them that suggested he might, just any moment, speak. Escaping into the open air felt like surfacing from depths unknown. She took greedy gulps, tasting freedom tinged with the decay of the forest. The burden of oak and sky weighed less than her own fear. Yet, driven by an unseen force more potent than the fear itself, she stayed. The path that led back to civilization seemed infinite now, lost beneath the looming presence of treetops that whispered in an ancient language as she doubled back toward the cabin. The boundaries between the cabin and the woods felt indistinct, as though each sought to consume the other. Drawing herself to calmness, she used the flashlight to map the perimeter of the cabin, searching for reassurance or perhaps the root of something inexplicable. It wasn't long before the beam struck something unusual. Among the trees, a structure emerged hardly 20 yards from the main dwelling. An old shed, overrun by ivy and half hidden by shadows. Her uncle's old workplace, a place where he'd tinkered, lost in endless projects that never saw completion. Somehow, the air surrounding the shed felt different, heavier, more laden with the memories of things left undone. Hanna approached, noting how strange roots splayed like clawing fingers across old bricks, as if the forest sought to claim it entirely. The door's protest was loud in the silence, a piercing scream of rusted hinges. Inside, an expansive dark awaited, patient as a predator. Her fingers fumbled for a switch, but found nothing. Resignation took over as she swept light across the interior, the beam licking cold metal and half-complete hunks of machinery. Dust-smothered surfaces, save for a solitary pathway cleared by someone's deliberate journey. It led to a lonely workbench at the far end, above which a solitary bulb hung like an executioner's lamp, swaying ever so slightly in a sudden, inexplicable breeze. On the bench lay something wrapped in old cloth. With hands guided by an emotionless force, she peeled it away, revealing a small, ornate box, inexplicable in its presence. Its wood was aged, yet pristine, with intricate symbols carved across every facet. Symbols that looked familiar and foreign, teasing at the edge of memory. No effort on her part could recall where she might have seen them before. Beneath the symbols, a latch, old brass, called to her. Hanna hesitated, aware that the box had drawn her uncle all these miles away from family and safety to stay here, to be lost to time and whispers. Yet the allure only deepened. Slowly, surely, trembling fingers released the catch, the hinges yielding without sound, unveiling the heart of mystery. Inside, a photograph laid sprawled untouched by time. Her uncle, standing tall and smiling wide, arm in arm with a group of strangers, all of whom felt familiar in a foreign way, like echoes of faces seen in the liminality of dreams. But something was wrong. Beneath their jovial stances and the normality of smiles, scripts sang across their grinning faces. Symbols like those on the box, etched into flesh, glowing from the photograph like fresh, Halai scribed ink. Dread coiled in her stomach as recognition dawned. These symbols were warnings, or perhaps protection, the reasons ambiguous, but rooted in something much deeper than understanding. The photograph began to heat, pulling itself into a curl, and she dropped it, startled. It floated softly to settle on the floor, the symbols gradually dimming, leaving the eyes to burn through her existence. And then there was the softest laugh, a sound of someone standing just beyond the threshold of light and consciousness. With it, the symbols returned, dancing in the dark as she turned and fled the shed. The air outside seemed desperate and consuming, mirroring the rush and swell of blood within her ears. Shadows crisscrossed the ground, threads interwoven upon some ethereal loom. She found herself running, through the shrouded forest, trees marking her path in reverent silence. The air whispered threats of pursuit, winding around her, like threads of fate tugging her willingly toward the cabin. The structure loomed again, its silhouette stark against the backdrop of night. Hanna sought escape, searching for a way to release the torment that swirled about her heart. But it wasn't the house that trapped her. It was her own intent, her deep-seated hunger for answers. As she reached the door, something shifted. The cabin seemed to open, welcoming her return with arms that forgot the years of absence. Inside, all was changed. Around her, the walls undulated like the breathing form of a resting beast, as if aware of her presence and pleased by it. Yet somewhere deep down, she feared it was not sleep that held sway here. Within this space, time stretched, danced, begged her to remain and discover its secrets. The sensation grew, whispering promises growing longer, stronger, until she could feel fingers at her very soul. From the corner of her eye, she glimpsed movement by the fireplace, a shadowy form, slouched, still in that old armchair. Hanna paused, eyes straining in the low light to discern the figure settled before fading embers. Her hand reached instinctively toward the small lamp, flicking it on to banish some of the dark. For the briefest moment, she saw him, her uncle, haggard, eyes sunken into his skull, watching her with a 1,000-mile stare. His lips moved, shaping silent words fraught with desperate meaning. And the light flickered away, plunging her once more into a murky purgatory of half-disguised truths. When the shadows receded again, the chair was empty. Hanna's heart clamored against her ribs, each thud a question rendered incomplete by circumstances. Everything she'd felt before seemed strangely distant, a mere precursor to this crescendo of strange anxieties. Summoning every ounce of courage, she approached the armchair. There, she found the last remnants of charcoal in the fireplace, a dying breath of heat, and beside it, the book. Bound in time's relentless march, its cover was discolored and ancient, the spine creaking in acknowledgement of her presence. Symbols again, the same ones that marked the box, embellished its surface. Shivering despite the room's growing warmth, Hanna opened it. The pages told stories of eldritch things, old bonds, bargains sealed beneath hidden stars. It spoke of watchers, timeless and endless, and the places where they dwelt. Her breath caught as understanding blossomed. She too had been watched. Every step guided, every moment part of a larger script to this night, a perfect lattice of design invisible to the unseeing eyes. The light dimmed. The air thickened again. Suddenly, through a window, beyond the grasp of the known world, she saw it, eyes like smoky quartz set in the void, fixed upon her. The house sighed, echoes swirling into form as awareness unfolded around her. The energy surged, expanding, drawing inwards upon a resonant axis she could not perceive, something beyond mere sight or cognition. And somewhere deep inside she perceived anything more, an invitation. Her uncle had left pieces of himself here, woven into the very being of this space, allowing him to watch over those who came, those who chose the path of knowing. A fork appeared on her mental horizon, a choice. To let this place consume her, abiding alongside its lingering watch, or to break free, leaving it behind forever. With a will she had not anticipated, Hanna sealed the book, distanced herself from its pull, her hand trembling as she placed it back by the ashes. The eyes outside blinked, recognizing, understanding. In that choice, they seemed to retreat, dispersing like mist beneath the burgeoning light of dawn that she could only now feel, a new day asserting itself upon the remnants of night. Hanna stepped from the cabin as repudiation welled around her. The forest seemed less oppressive, the path resolute underfoot, as the hurried trill of birdsong hinted at a sad yet stirring promise of renewal. She journeyed forward, leaving the cabin behind, its weathered gate of spirits firmly closed, whispers of her uncle diminished beneath the rustle, the forest reclaiming a singular voice once more. The bus rumbled into view exactly as it had before, lending the air another reality. Hanna boarded, turning away only to glance one last time toward the tree's embrace. Within her mind, the last moments of eternity refrained. Echoes whispered without thought, and as she took her seat, the bus pulling away, she found in herself something tender and faintly resolute. Yet she understood it was only ever the beginning. Origins end where they begin, endlessly circling back into the realm of forgotten promises, where eyes that sought found, and those who were found became watchers themselves. She nestled into her seat, keeping the forest in her heart but not her mind, as she drove away to worlds anew, never again unknowingly alone.